Question: what's the cheapest guitar you've ever bought? What's the cheapest guitar you would ever buy? Welcome back, everybody, and to those of you who haven't yet subscribed, welcome. As I have no doubt you're aware, affordable guitars these days can get very affordable. This is great news for people on a tight budget or for people just starting out. But you know what they say? Buy cheap, buy twice, right? So here's two important questions. First, are these affordable guitars any good? And second, if they are any good, are they good enough for anyone to own, not just beginners or people on a budget? Here I've got a Squier Affinity Stratocaster. It's not the latest model, but it's representative of what you get now. I've also got an Epiphone Les Paul Standard. Again, not recent, but again representative of what you'd get in a store. Prices are around $200 or pounds for the Squier and between $400 and $500 for the Epiphone, and we're talking about roughly half that when buying used. Now, I'm aware these aren't the cheapest guitars you can get. There are Squiers and Epiphones available for $100 or less. The reason I've chosen these is that on anything cheaper, they start taking away key features. So, for example, on a cheaper Strat, you would get a fixed bridge, and on a cheaper Epiphone, you would get a bolt-on neck. Now, you can do without a vibrato on the Strat and without a set neck on the Les Paul. But in my opinion, there's a difference between making the same guitar more affordably and making less guitar, if you see what I mean. But anyway, let's check these ones out. So just like a real Fender, you got your 21 fret maple and rosewood neck, you've got your ergonomic body, you've got your 3 single coils, you've got your 5-way selector, 1 volume, 2 tones, you've got your vibrato bridge, you've got your angled jack cup, you've got a big 70s style headstock, and you've got enclosed tuners here. So again, with the Epiphone, it's very similar to a Gibson. You've got your mahogany body and neck, you've got a bound 22 fret rosewood fretboard with trapezoid inlays, you've got your bound maple cap, you've got 2 humbuckers, you've got your tunematic bridge, you've got 2 volumes and 2 tones, just like a Gibson USA Les Paul Standard. You even get Grover tuners on this one, so you know it's going to stay in tune. So of course these guitars aren't going to be as well spec'd as the American equivalents that cost 5 times the price, so you have to be realistic about the difference between what just happens to be cheaper and what really ought to be better even at this price point. For example, obviously you're not going to get a hard shell case with these guitars, but neither of them come with even a gig bag. All you get is a cardboard box. That's okay for keeping it in when it's in the house or under the bed or whatever, but you're not going to be carrying it to band practice in that. So when you buy either of these guitars, you're going to have to allow for an extra $20 to $30 minimum for a gig bag. And when you're buying a guitar on this kind of budget, an extra 10% of the price is kind of a problem. It does feel kind of petty to pick holes in guitars at this price point, but it really needs to be done. Making a guitar affordable doesn't justify making it badly, and in my opinion, it's almost better making an affordable guitar badly. Why? Because if a complete beginner owns this guitar and it's got a problem, that person is much less likely to understand what the problem is or what to do about it. And also much less likely to have the means to pay someone else to fix it. So I'm basically performing a public service here, okay? You're welcome. So I'm going to start with the Epiphone because, spoiler alert, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, the paint job on this one's pretty ugly, and I've always hated the shape of these headstocks, which fortunately Epiphone have updated in the last few years, but both of those things are down to personal taste. The way the guitar is made, you can't fault it. Okay, so this guitar is more than double the Strat's price point, but you got all these inlays, all this binding here, you've got your set neck. This kind of stuff is hard to do, and it's harder to do well, and they've really nailed it. I'll link below to a video I made comparing this guitar to a Gibson USA Les Paul and a Gibson Custom Shop Les Paul, and I'll let you be the judge of the outcome, but it's really worth a watch. Now the Strat has the advantage of having a much simpler design. It's bolted together and there's not a lot of embellishment going on, but that's just what Strats are. The Custom Shop Strats are exactly the same. Ignore these stickers, by the way. This particular guitar was actually won in a raffle organized by this particular liquor brand. Please drink responsibly. Being super picky, the one thing I could criticize about this guitar is that the tuning isn't the most stable. That'll be because the machine heads aren't that great, and the springs in the rear cavity will just be a little bit weak. It's not terrible, but beginners aren't going to know how to set this up for optimal tuning stability, so it's not ideal. But then, that's true of any guitar with a vibrato system. Otherwise, it's really pretty great. The point I'm arriving at is, for the money, these really are remarkable achievements. And of course, the price you pay for it, that's not how much money they spent making the guitar. You've got the retailer's markup, you've got your shipping costs, and obviously the manufacturer has to make a little bit of profit. So after that, it's more like half or less of what you paid for it. That's pretty much miraculous. Okay, so there is an argument to be had about Chinese manufacturing, and we're not going to have it here. One thing I would say though is that not all Chinese manufacturing is sweatshop slavery. And although I haven't seen it for myself, the available information is that major guitar manufacturers do a pretty good job of making sure that their Chinese manufacturing is ethical at least, if not, comparable to the standards at home. Anyway, let's get back to the main question. Are these a waste of money? If you've been paying attention, the answer is that these are obviously far from a waste of money. I'm not going to go back over it, but it's clear that in both cases you're getting more than your money's worth, and I honestly don't see how you would consider either of the guitars a bad deal. The second question was, are these guitars good enough for anyone to own, even if you're not a beginner or on a tight budget? Here I would say it's a definite yes for the Epiphone, but only a maybe for the Strat. The Epiphone here is easily good enough for most uses. Just one example, say you've already got a Gibson USA Les Paul and you're gigging and you need a backup, well here's your backup right here. But honestly, if this was your main guitar you'd have nothing to worry about, and you could buy 4 or 5 of these for the price of one Gibson. With the Strat, it is very good, but I just don't think it's ready for the gigging musician. It would need at least some new tuners for that, which is why it's a maybe, because that would be an expense that would equal buying a guitar with better tuners already installed. But remember, this is half or less than the cost of the Epiphone, so this is really what we mean by entry-level guitar. This is what someone is going to use for that first year or two when most of their playing is just going to happen at home. Although the other potential use could be a cheap modding platform. If you want a good Strat to upgrade with new tuners, a new bridge, new pickups, the whole thing, this is an ideal candidate because the body and neck are solid, and let's face it, you're not going to worry about hurting the instrument's value. So anyway guys, I'm going to leave it there. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Please consider subscribing to my channel, and if you've enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy.